Okay. Good evening, everyone. Packed house, I love it, love it. I will call this meeting to order this August the 13th, 2019 of the Marion City Council. Welcome to the air-conditioned inside, because it is certainly not that way outside, I promise you. So we will have our invocation by Council Member Danny Carter, followed by a pledge of allegiance. Please stand.
Bow your heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, tonight we come to you with glad hearts, happy that we are citizens of the greatest nation on earth, one of free-loving people. We also come to you with sad hearts, sad for the people in El Paso and Daytona that suffered, the people suffered senseless acts of violence, and their loved ones are in pain and suffering. Please be with them and comfort them as long as you can. Tonight we will act on things for the citizens of Villa Rica. We ask that you be with us as we make those decisions, lead and direct us in those decisions, and help us do what's right for the people. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, first up on our agenda is ceremonial presentations, and we always lead off with our employee anniversaries. Our first employee anniversary is Renata Cunningham for 5 years of service, and she works in the library for her 5 years of service, and she cannot attend. Our next person is Ida Hairston, 5 years at the library. If you'd come forward, please. You take a lot for granted, Sam. I think Sam thought I could fit through that little space up there. I told him he took a lot for granted. How you doing? Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for all you do at our beautiful library, and many more years. Hope you work with us many more years. So, okay, let's move out to the middle right here.
And I'm promoting Spanish Heritage Month next month, September 14th, so please, everyone come out.
Very good. I like that.
A sales pitch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Our second recipient is a gentleman that I've known for all the years that I've been with the city of Villa Rica, and that's a long time. Sergeant Kevin Carroll, would you please come down? And I think she's going to handle that.
Congratulations. 20 years is a long time to work in one place. Kevin was here when I got here in Villa Rica. I've been here going on 14, and Kevin's been a huge asset to our department, and just a great leader. All of the officers want to go to Kevin's ship. I want to go on Kevin. Yeah, that's what they always tell him. Because he cares about his folks. He's always, dedicated, always training, always teaching them to be safe, and we appreciate the job you do. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. And our next recipient is someone that I worked very closely with for 14 years, and Michael Best is celebrating his 25th year with the city of Villa Rica, and I'm just going to tell you a lot of positive things about the man, because I think that's appropriate. When I started with Villa Rica as the recreation director back in 2001, I had a great staff when I walked in the door. I had Tara Ivey, who's still there. I had Michael Best, who's still there. I had Courtney Powell, who's still there. And I had Ernestine Mullins, who's still there, if that tells you anything. When you surround yourself with that many good people, good things are bound to happen. And anything that good that happened in that recreation department is due in large part to Michael Best. And for those of you that may not know, Michael has been the athletic director for the city of Villa Rica since before I came. And he took over in the shoes of a mighty big man, figuratively and in real life, and that was Tiny Cole. And Tiny Cole, a lot of you are nodding your head, was Villa Rica. That's the only thing I knew about Villa Rica when I was in Cobb County, was Tiny Cole. And I respected the man, and I felt it an honor to come and try to fill his mighty big shoes. And Michael Best stepped into that role and did a really, really fine job for us. And he can say what I can say. I see kids now that have grandparents that were in the recreation program when I started back in 2001. And to have that many generations of children in a recreation department with the same athletic director leads to a good community. And any child that has ever played for Michael Best or under his capable supervision will tell you that Michael bleeds purple and gold. You can say whatever you want about Michael, but I'll tell you this right now, there's nobody in this city that bleeds purple and gold any more than Michael Best. And so it was my pleasure to work with him for 14 years, and then after I became mayor, to work with him again. And he will be sorely missed. And but I wanted him to know personally, because I know that he's watching, that I appreciate everything he did for me and for this city and for the children. And anybody that knows me knows, and Chief, what is it? It's all about them kids. And it's all about them kids. And nobody loved these kids in Villa Rica more than Michael Best and Jeff Reese. So thank you, Michael, for all you've done. Okay, our next item on the agenda is our annual report from our police department. To dedicate that, so Chief, please come forward with your Georgia tie on.
You like my Georgia tie?
I like that.
Thank you.
We got a microphone for you right here.
Sir. Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh, good.
Is that good, bad? Okay, not great? All right, so this year we dedicated our annual report. We do it every year. Terry Bowles is our administrative assistant. She's the one that helped put it together along with command staff and other people in the department. And this year we went a little different. We decided to dedicate our annual report to our families. Those of you that have family that's in law enforcement know the dangers that we face every day. You know that one day we may not come home. And it's amazing how supportive our families can be in keeping us on the positive. You know, even when we come home from a bad day, you know, I can see my wife and my kids, and it makes me smile, it makes me happy. But they've always been extremely supportive of me, as is a lot of the folks that are here tonight that are with their families. And it means a lot to know that they support us even though we don't make a lot of money. They support us even though, you know, people sometimes, you know, give police crap, but they always support what we do, and they support our department. It just means a lot to know that no matter what, they're there for us. So if you would, anybody that's here, this family of law enforcement, please rise. I'd like to give you a hand. If you guys would come up here real quick, she wants us to get a quick picture. Somebody's birthday is tonight. Does anybody know whose birthday it is? She's trying to leave. Zoe Parker, Captain Parker's daughter, turned 25 today. No, I'm sorry, 14. Happy birthday, Zoe. All right, come on, guys, come up. Family and officers. It's going to be a big picture.
Big picture. Big camera.
You want me to sing?
I think you should. I think you should. I'd love to see that.
You really would. Come on, guys and ladies. I'm gonna get 100.
Come on. Shorty. Hey, y'all go ahead and act like you like each other. Okay, somebody's number's yeah.
I still can't get you off.
Back up, Lisa.
Y'all come up here. That was all the problem. Somebody has to do it. Okay, now what, oh, there you go, now.
Neil.
This way, this way. Chief, stick your head right there, and you slide over.
Oh, Lord, I'm kind of regretting this decision.
There we go.
Come on, Chief.
That's why you got I always say this, and I mean it every time I say it, we are blessed to have the employees that we do in the city of Villa Rica, and certainly our police department is no exception to that. Chief, thank you, and the officers that are here. I had the honor of filming an active shooter drill that the city put on about a month ago, and to watch those men and women go into those buildings, and it was a drill, but to see them, it was like a real thing going on. And just think about that. When everybody else is running away from the gunfire, those folks are walking into it. So thank you for all you do to keep us safe in this city, and for all our employees, for that matter, to all our employees. Okay, our next item is, the two officers aren't here, but Chief Mansour is going to come up and talk about something that happened. I was actually on vacation, but very proud, and it didn't surprise me that our officers stepped up once again. But Chief, if you'd come forward.
Y'all tired of looking at me yet?
No.
All right, so we received a call to the local Chick-fil-A reference a 2-year-old that was unconscious. When we arrived, 2 of the officers arrived, Captain Parker and myself arrived, and the baby was laying there unconscious. We were trying to get her back, couldn't wake her up. We had the ambulance on the way and fire. Ambulance had 3 other calls in Villa Rica, so the closest ambulance we had to come to us was about 10 or 15 minutes away. So we decided to grab the child, put her in the patrol car. Officers took her to the hospital where they were able to revive her and bring her back, and she was okay. So it was a great day. They didn't tell us what was wrong with her. I know she had been choking and had thrown up and then passed out right after that. But it was a scary moment, but thankfully everybody was okay.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, and certainly I recognize our employees, and we couldn't do what we do without our volunteer boards that we have. And we have 4 oaths of office, easy for me to say, tonight. So I will step forward and I will administer those oaths. And Sam's going to give me room to get by this time, realizing that I did eat a little bit more while I was on vacation. Okay, our first oath of office is for Bradford Hegler. Bradford will be on our Main Street Advisory Board, or has been, and this is a reappointment. So this is the first one. You just around a lot, so that's good.
Yes, sir.
All right, and I'm going to say the oath, and at the end, if you just say I do or I will. Raise your right hand. I, Bradford Hegler, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Main Street Advisory Board. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of the trust under the government of the United States, any other state, any other foreign state, which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia, I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica to the best of my ability without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof. And your term of office is July the 9th, 2019 to December 31st, 2020.
I will.
Thank you, sir.
No, thank you. Thank you.
We'll sign this. And this indebts you for the rest of your life. That's exactly right. Today's the 13th. Yeah. Our next two, since we have two members on the Library Advisory Board, I'm going to ask Julie Dobbs and Cheryl Bell to please come forward. And this is the last one. How you doing, ladies? Good to see you, man.
Motion was to deny.
Okay, and as I said to Brad, I'm going to say the oath of office, and at the end, if you just say I do or I will, okay? I, Julie Dobbs and Cheryl Bell, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Library Advisory Board. I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state, which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica to the best of my ability without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof.
I will.
Okay, congratulations. Thank you so much. If you sign that, it'll save you a trip to City Hall. I've got it. Read their term of office. I didn't read their term of office. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have John Goodfriend. And John has agreed to be on our Recreation Advisory Commission, very near and dear to my heart, John. And I heard you've already been doing some study and working in the parks and talking to the volunteers, and we appreciate your commitment. And I look forward to working with you. So same thing, if you'll just raise your right hand and at the end say, I will or I do. I, John Goodfriend, do solemnly affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties as an appointed board member of the Recreation Advisory Commission. I'm not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due this state or any political subdivision or authority thereof. I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States, any other state, or any foreign state, which I, by the laws of the state of Georgia, am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold said office according to the Constitution and laws of Georgia. I will perform the duties of my office in the best interest of the city of Villa Rica to the best of my ability without fear, favor, affection, reward, or expectation thereof. And I forgot to mention on the ladies, but your term of office is July the 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2022.
I will.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, John. Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to our next item, adoption of the agenda. Council, I have one amendment that I would propose that we make to the agenda, and that is through a slip-up, we have failed to add for the Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo, their signage that they've been requesting since I can remember. Commissioner Chance is here, and we'll get up and say a few words about that. But I would ask that we amend the agenda to add C2, Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo signage. Any other changes?
Mayor, we need to go in executive session and talk about real estate.
We have it on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Winnie.
It's on my agenda.
Yes, on my.
Okay.
I make a motion, we approve the adoption as amended, the agenda as amended.
Second.
Have a motion in multiple seconds. All in favor? All opposed? Did you vote, Matt?
Oh, I'm sorry, in favor.
You're voting for or against?
In favor, yes.
Okay.
Yes. A second.
All right. We have reached the public comments portion of our meeting. Anyone wishing to give public comments, please do so at this time. State your name and address for the record, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes.
Rhonda McCullers, 401 North Lost Lake Cove, Villa Rica. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, I brought to your attention a concern of mine as a voting citizen and as a mother of a firefighter. Since that meeting, I am happy to say that people are listening. Thank you, Ms. McPherson, who is not here tonight, Chief Pageant, our county reps like Clint Chance, our new chair, Michelle Morgan. Things are happening, people are talking, so I wanted to say a thank you to everybody who has said anything, done anything. As I stated in my comments at the previous meeting, these men don't just fight fires. They are your city's first responders, the first on the scene, and sometimes the hope between life and death. Our friends behind me, they didn't come tonight to make funeral arrangements for y'all. I saw some worried looks up here. They actually got to see these boys in action on Sunday. While visiting a deceased friend, a man suffered a heart attack. Lucky for that man, the deceased was the grandmother of one of our firefighters from Station 9. Having been given permission by the chain of command to attend this funeral, both Engine 9 and Ladder 9 were already on the scene. Without a second to spare, this team of first responders sprang into action, working together as they have trained and administered CPR and saved this gentleman's life. This is what proper training, building a great team, having dedicated leaders, and a supportive chain of command can do. It saves lives. So thank you for all of your help. I pray that we continue to support these boys, to get the proper training that they need, to build the teams, to not lose any more of the good firefighters who have trained together and worked together that can do something like they did in a matter of minutes. And if Miss Dana would like to come up, they were all there. They saw what happened. They saw how these boys work, and they were witnesses to a miracle.
We not only stand together in heartbreak for people, we stand together for the good in people. And what we saw Sunday was amazing. That fire station, number 9, they never hesitated. Somebody looked at me and said, "You have a defibrillator?" And I looked over, and there are 8 of them working on this gentleman. They put him on the floor. He flatlined, and she is correct. Everything she said, thank you. They had to use the defibrillator 3 times to ever get a pulse. They lost him for 4 solid minutes. And I just want to stand in awe. Our policemen, of course, and our firefighters, because I see this stuff or I hear this stuff, but when you see it, when you see it, it makes a difference because they never hesitated. The grandson of the lady that her funeral was going to be in 15 minutes, he pulled off his jacket and he started working too. It was quite, and I think in the world, quite an incredible sight. And I think in a world that you hear all negative and you hear sad, negative and criticism and all. I think it's wonderful to stand here and say, we stand in awe of our policemen, our firefighters, and we always give out these bands, and I don't have a firefighter. I gave it away on the way over here. But, and I had to borrow one from our lady that we give these away. And I guess, Ellen, how many have we given away since we started?
Over 4,000.
So we always support them, but I wanted to come tonight in awe. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
your
ma'am.
time.
John Mount, 214 Rockmart Road. I've come tonight as the chairman of the Development Authority, the Billerica Development Authority. I know that our contract with Carroll tomorrow is coming up for consideration. So I know you guys are going to be looking into that. So as a board member for a few years now, I would just like to say that whether it's Carroll tomorrow or another type of professional, for the Development Authority Board to be effective, we will need that support. Those real estate professionals, they understand there's a lot of background information on how, you know, the rules that we have to follow and the things like that. And everybody on the board pretty well works and are volunteers, and we're glad to do it, but we also need that support however it comes. So whether we hire somebody, the city hires somebody, or we use Carroll tomorrow, I just would like to say, you know, that's very important to us and for the board to function properly. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, John.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Clint Chance, 217 North Avenue. Mr. Barber and legal counsel. Wanted to touch base with you in good communication effort to give you some updates from the county. Last week we were able to reconvene, thankfully, after having a full board after elections, and get about the business of the county. We did pass last Tuesday a $53 million operating budget for Carroll County. Did want to give some highlights to that very quickly. There had been a lot of innuendos and talks out about the budget jumping from $50 million to $53 million, which technically it did, but when you look at actuals that were coming in toward FY19, toward the end of that fiscal year, we were right around $52 million. So obviously having to use projections and running off of actuals, we were able to narrow that number. It's still a conservative number, but technically it really only went up by $1 million when you take into consideration the actuals that were coming in. Obviously, no budget's perfect. There were things I would like to have seen in it and things that necessarily I would not have been in favor for that were in it, but that's a part of the governing process. Financially, there are things that we need to continue to strive for, but we're sitting good at approximately a 23% reserve account. ACCG suggests being between 16 and 25, so we're healthy in that area. Sales tax, ad valorem tax, both are projected to continue to be increasing. At least holding steady, but if not increasing because of the increased economy that we're all being privileged to right now. In addition to that, 1,000 building permits within Carroll County, so 1,000 brand new structures that were never on the tax digest before, so that's going to increase some of the revenue on the property tax side as well. One of the things that we're very proud of is the employees were able to receive a 2% raise across the board. Our first responders actually received a 5% increase, and the sheriff, we implemented his third out of a 4-year plan that he had brought to the commission board about 3 years ago. Within that, additionally, we were able to give the firefighters a $1 an hour raise, which translates into about in between 7 to 13% raise when you take into consideration the amount of hours that work at the $1. So we were very proud to implement that as well. We are partially self-insured with our health insurance. We've had 2 years of flat renewals. We are continuing to work and find ways to improve there, but I think having 2 renewal years where we didn't have an increase is definitely positive. The wellness program that the HR department conducts has done a very good job. Our employees, as I hear you talking about here in the city, have bought into the program, so we're having less claims. So I think the wellness program all the way around is definitely a positive. Some of the Challenges, obviously communication. I would like to have seen a marketing or communication director in the county. We're at approximately 600 employees, 700 if you consider seasonal. So not only communicating with our employees, but obviously with our constituent base as well. You look at the court systems where we have elected officials that we fund them, but we don't necessarily run their departments. You look at the constitutional officers. There's a lot of moving parts within Carroll County that I think we can do a better job of communicating, if you will, to the general public and within ourselves. So that's something I want to continue to see us move towards. Also, maximizing revenue. When you look at the diversity of Carroll County, and I'm going to take, for instance, the solicitor's office. Our new Solicitor General, Becky Jackson, has been doing an outstanding job since the retirement of Mr. Doug Bassey. One of the challenges there, by nature, that department is designed to make revenue, but they simply cannot get to the cases. So on a trial calendar, you may be looking at 200 cases that are on that trial calendar. They can probably only get to 4, and those are set 4 times a year. So you've got 150 or 160 cases 4 times a year that are constantly rolling over that they simply can't get to. So we want justice, obviously, within the court system, and they're doing a fine job. And in the same note, it is a revenue generator for the county. So I'm wanting the board to take heed to this and look at ways that we can continue to be more productive in revenue areas that we have in different departments. Mental health continues to be a challenge. We have heard this from Superior Court, from State Court, from Juvenile Court, from Magistrate Court, and the list goes on about how the judicial system is having to deal with essentially an epidemic in mental health. And so when they have these cases, you can't just ravel the gavel and move on. I mean, there's ways that they have to deal with certain issues, if someone is competent or not, and so that not only takes time and more manpower, but obviously takes resources and money as well. So that continues to be a challenge for Carroll County to try to provide the resources from a monetary standpoint. They're doing a good job in trying to get state and federal grants, but in the same note, that doesn't cover all the costs. So that continues to be a challenge for the county as well. With a good economy, obviously revenues are up, and that's important, but also we have challenges with that. The labor pool, a very competitive market. How do we attract, how do we retain employees? If you look at the average market today, probably 3, 4, 5 years in average tenure for an employee. 20 years ago, the average tenure was 20 or 30 years. You got a job and you stayed, and that's how it was. So how do we attract these employees? How do we pay them a competitive wage to keep them? And this is nothing new. You all deal with this throughout the year as well. But on a large scale, from the county perspective, between 600 to 700 employees, it's definitely a challenge. Also, material costs continue to increase. We look at paving costs, things that we're doing in-house with our state prison in Carroll County. All of those operating costs continue to go up, so trying to stay ahead of the curve on that. I did want to reiterate the priority of the new fire station. That's something that, as your county commissioner, I'm going to continue to push forward on and SPLOST. Also working with DOT, our fire chief is trying to do the best he can there. Operationally, as you probably all know, Station 9 here in Villa Rica is the busiest operational station in all of Carroll County. So that's something I want to continue to move forward and make sure that we give the resources to the firemen and women that protect us daily. And with that, I also want to state that campaigning is over. There was a lot of campaigning that went on with 3 different open positions on the commission board, but now it's time to govern. My job is to work with each and every single one of them, stand for principles and represent my district, but to make sure that I do my job to get along with everybody. And I'm really looking forward to working with the board. If you all ever have any questions or something I can go in more in depth or represent you with, please don't hesitate to let me know. But I did want to give somewhat of a brief synopsis of the $53 million budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clint. We really do appreciate those updates. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comments portion of the meeting and move on to tab A. I'm sorry, council updates. Do we have any council updates? I was going to announce our District 2 Commissioner, but I think he just did that. Seeing no council updates, we'll move along to tab A, which is the governing body. And council, you have before you the special call meeting minutes of July 22nd, 2019, and the council meeting minutes of July the 23rd, 2019. What is your pleasure?
Mayor, I just have one question regarding the July 23rd meeting and just some of the language that's used on the minutes. Perhaps it doesn't need an amendment. Perhaps Sam could opine on it. On section B2, on the July 23rd minutes, it states that Councilman McDougal made a motion to deny the variance request and then so forth. And then in the result, it says adopted. I'm wondering if that language should say denied, but I'm not sure, since in the narrative it said denied, that change is necessary. So
Give me that location again.
section B2.
To correct it, if I recall correctly, it was denied.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just make a motion to, we can just make a motion to amend it, and pass it as amended,
Okay, then,
as long as.
What should the language
Show me,
say is the
tell me,
question?
yeah, tell me
yeah,
what
that's
the
the
question
question,
is.
right.
The
So-
language says adopted, but should it say passed?
Well, it
Or the
says
motion-
adopted unanimous, but the motion was to deny, and that is what happened.
Right.
So that's
So-
too confusing to me.
Maybe we correct the language, but it seems to me that I can read it, but
I understand what you, I think it's good as written. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
The motion was to deny, and that motion was adopted.
Okay. If that's the way everyone else reads it, then I'm fine with it, so.
Yeah, I think it's the way we typically would do that.
It's a little confusing, but I think everyone, if
That's
you
a
read it,
good
it
question,
makes
though.
sense.
Okay.
Question.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the special call meeting of July 22nd and the council meeting of July 23rd, 2019.
Second.
Motion is second, any discussion? Not all in favor? It is unanimous. Tab B, Finance.
Good evening. Tonight, you'll be hearing the presentation of our 2018 financial audit. This is James Bentz. He's one of the partners with Malden and Jenkins. Excuse me. One of the partners with Malden and Jenkins, James Bentz. Just to remind everybody, this is the 2018 year, which was our short year when we changed the fiscal year from December 31st to September 30. So it's a 9-month period that he'll be talking about. So I'll turn it over to James.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As she said, my name is James Bentz. I'm a partner with Malden and Jenkins. And tonight I'm going to go through, in a very summarized version, our results from the 2018 audit. I believe all of you have a copy of what we call our auditor's discussion and analysis. It's a document we put together just to summarize the results. I'm not going to read every page. I'm going to hit the highlights. But if at any point you have a question, feel free to jump in, and I will try to answer that question. Also, if at a later point in time you have a question, I believe Tom and Sarah both have my contact information, so I'd be happy to answer anything. With that, if you'll go to page 2, just as a quick overview, to give some comfort, our firm, about 25 to 30%, depending on the year, of what we do is local government audits. So we have about 80 people who spend 100% of the year working with local governments. I can't answer any tax questions you have, but I can point you to a guy. But I do spend all year long working with local governments. We work with about 450 governments throughout our firm, and we're located in 8 states. So it is an industry that we work with year-round, and we spend a lot of our time helping governments, not only with the audit process, but just being a resource throughout the year. On page 4, to kind of get into some highlights or some important information to know, as the audit goes on, we are an external independent audit firm. The financial statements that are prepared by your management team, we audit those financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, generally accepted auditing standards, and government auditing standards. That requires us to be able to test enough information to give an opinion as to whether or not the financial statements are materially correct. It does not require us to look at every transaction and test everything that the city does throughout the year, enough to be able to give our opinion on whether or not they're materially correct as presented. So we did conduct our audit in accordance with those standards this year, and we issued an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, saying that the financial statements as prepared, I believe you all have a copy of those, but the financial statements that were released to the state, those are materially correct as presented by management. So in short, that's the thumbs up good report that you want to get. As part of our audit, we not only audited the city's finances, but we also looked at the component units that you report, which are the Downtown Development Authority and the Industrial Development Authority. They're included in your financial statements and were part of our opinion. On page 6 of our report, 6 and 7 just kind of gives an overview of your general fund. It shows kind of in a pie graph format the main revenue sources and your main expenditure categories for the September 30th, 2018 year. As Sarah mentioned, you'll keep in mind that was your 9-month audit period, so the numbers do look a little different compared to normal because obviously the big change was your property taxes that are levied in that year are now budgeted for the future year, which is typical of a September 30 or December year-end government. So you'll see on the pie for your revenues that your property taxes were only about $500,000 for that 9-month period. That's kind of the anomaly if you were to look at a 5 or 10-year trend of what the city will look like, because it will have property taxes going forward. You can see, obviously, on the expenditure side, the expenditures don't have as much volatility. You're basically looking at 3/4 of a year, so your allocation of how your expenditures went is pretty consistent. Public safety still being the main way that the city's using those property tax and other tax revenue dollars, and that's to provide the public safety for the citizens. On page 8, it's kind of, we've got I think it's a 6-year trend. Again, just very high level looking at your general fund revenues and expenditures. As is normal when you have a government that changes your year in from, but when you recognize the property tax, you'll see your expenditures actually were over your revenues for the year. That was to be expected. But it does kind of stand out when you look at the trend, and also keeping in mind that's a 9-month year compared to 12-month years. You'll look at it at first glance and see that everything does look lower, but again, that's 9 months of activity. On page 10, what I want to point out there is, a lot of people when they ask, how's the city look, how's the city doing, the most common place that people will look is your general fund, and they'll look at the general fund balance. The chart there shows where your fund balance is at each fiscal year end compared to your expenditures for that period, which shows what you have available in your fund balance to carry forward in the assumption that you would have no revenues for the next year, what that ratio would look like. And so you can see at September 30th, 2018, your fund balance is about 39%. And that includes all categories of fund balance. If you look at your unassigned, which is really what you have available going forward, you're sitting at like about 31%. And so GFOA, I think Mr. Clint said that ACCG as well, the standard's usually about 16 to 25% is where they want to see people at. And so you guys are in that range as well. Let's see. Going to page 15, a few other things. As part of the audit process, obviously the main thing we're looking at is we're looking at numbers. We also look at the estimates and the assumptions used by management in compiling those numbers. And through that process, the accounting policies and principles that the city's using is in line with other local governments, and there's nothing that we noted to be unusual as a unusual or unaccustomed practice for local governments. We did have audit adjustments through the audit process. Those have been provided to management. They were incorporated in the financial statements, and they're reflected in your general ledger as well as in the financial statements. And on page 17, as a result of having those audit adjustments, the standards as the auditors, when we have an adjustment that's proposed by us, if it hits a certain threshold, it's required by the standards to be reported as a material weakness. And so we had one item that met that category. It deals with the period of recognition, and so what it was there was entries that were posted by management that were moved to a different fiscal year for recognition purposes. So not that they were unrecorded activity, but just the period they were being recognized had to be adjusted. So there were 2 adjustments dealing with that, which accounted for about $200,000 of when the expenditures were being recognized. We also had one finding related to, there were about 5 funds which didn't have budgets properly adopted for those funds. They're your smaller special revenue funds, but just to make sure that that's brought to the council's attention that we should be adopting funds under Georgia law. All of your governmental funds need to have budgets adopted. So those were the 2 findings we had this year. At the bottom of 18 and into 19, those are just management recommendations. They're items that we noted through the course of the audit that we've met with management on and discussed with them, areas where there could be improvements and items to work on, but they don't reach the threshold of being reported as deficiencies. But again, in transparency, we do want to always communicate those with the council or with the boards. page 20 and kind of through the rest of this document is just a very high-level overview of the new accounting standards. GASB, who sets the accounting principles and standards that local governments report under, continues to churn out new requirements and new standards, and they're applicable going out as far as 4 years from now. We work with management to make sure they're aware of these before they're actually required to be implemented, but the decisions you all make obviously can change what is or is not currently applicable for the city. So we do want to put the information before you, but just to let you know, we work with management who's going to handle kind of the implementation of those standards throughout the year to make sure they're aware of those. So if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Staff questions?
No.
Okay. We
you
don't
all.
need a motion on this to adopt, so thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, tab C, community development. Bobby?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First item is tab R-3-19. It's a resolution to adopt a list of 11 streets. First three of these streets on this list, Garnet Drive, Quartz Drive, and North Bayview Drive, have potential development moving forward on these streets. And lenders tend to want the magic letter that states that streets are public, utilities, infrastructure has been inspected and approved, and it's all well and good. These three streets have been final top coated. We've got inspection reports from our staff that all the utilities have been looked at and acceptable. The other streets on the list are, you wouldn't believe it. I've got an Excel spreadsheet of all of our street list. The analysis was done on it back in 2013 and 14 and research on all the streets that have been actually adopted by City Council and those that had not, and those that had assumed to be adopted. So going forward, you're going to be getting from time to time a list of streets that if they were assumed to be adopted, we need to make it official. A lot of these streets that round out this list are, we just paved McNeilus Court in last year's paving. Old Tanyard Road, Leslie Drive, we've been maintaining these for a long time. So it's just a formality on those to let's go ahead and get it in the record that we've adopted them. So if there's any questions in the future, we've got it covered. So basically, this resolution is just, and I'll bring a list forward from time to time, recommending the adoption of these streets for permanent, perpetual maintenance by the city.
So I guess maybe you just answered my question, because what has been getting to me is that a number of these streets have been here since well before I was born. And we've been maintaining them all those years. So are you saying that list, because I've seen that list too, we just don't have the records to show
Correct.
that this happened? We don't know that it didn't happen. And you just want to do this to be sure on some of these. Now Garnet, Quartz, and North Bay,
Yeah.
I know you just top coated.
We've researched the minutes all the way back to 2000. And, of course, a lot of these, like you say, go way back.
Why not bring them all to us at once?
I can do that if you want me to.
Well, I mean, that one, the last two, 10 and 11, been 30 or 40 years.
Oh, I know.
Not like we're in a hurry.
The next list I'll bring you will be the list, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, don't piecemeal us. Give it to
Well,
us.
I moved forward on this because I've got lenders and developers that are snapping at my heels about, come on now, we can't get our loan without this letter, and I can't write it without a vote from council.
Couple of comments and suggestions. When I looked at this, you said it, and I thought you were about to say it, but I don't see it reflected in the written presentation, and that is, for these streets to be adopted by the city, they have to meet minimum standards.
Correct.
So any street that's just a street can't be adopted until it meets those minimum standards. If you could put that in the wordage so that that's in the record now, so that we get it right this time, that the streets are up to or exceed minimum standards, and therefore we feel like, they need to be addressed. Does that make sense? Because it really doesn't say that. You said it, but it's not in the written minutes. And the second comment is, and this is really talking to Elisa, I know we had talked about software that would allow us to search for specific things in minutes.
We can do that. I can already do that.
But I can only imagine looking through 50 years of minutes.
Yeah, but she doesn't have everything electronically. She has to research the books once you get back before 2000.
You're talking about going forward.
I'm talking about moving forward. I'm not talking about fixing the past.
Oh, we won't be in this position moving forward, period.
Okay, that's, because I can only imagine somebody sitting at a desk trying to look over 50 years of minutes and find when.
I pulled my
Garnet
hair
Drive
out
was-
over this list.
Yeah.
I concur with that you make some sort of note that these now meet minimum standards. I mean, it is interesting, too, that Chadwick Place, my guess is that met minimum standards a long time ago. But I understand what we're doing here. So I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt the list of streets into the city of Villa Rica street inventory for permanent perpetual maintenance.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? It is approved unanimous. And we have added item number 2, which is the Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo signage.
Mr. Mayor, we've been approached by the Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo with a request of temporary signage for the 14th annual Villa Rica Rodeo scheduled for August 23rd and 24th. I apologize. The Chief of Operations got this to me a couple of weeks ago, and it just got by me. But anyway,
He's probably looking up Garnet Drive.
well, I just wish that was the only thing I was looking at right now. But anyway, this application is almost identical to what they have asked for in the past. They've got a 4x8 signage, a number not to exceed 5, a 4x4 signage not to exceed 8, and 18 inches by 24 inches not to exceed 75. All the signage will not be placed on public right-of-way. It'll all be on private property. If Commissioner Chance wants to add some stuff to it, it's a formality that we do every year. It's a great event, and it's family-oriented, and staff recommends approval.
Is this the same signage that they had last year?
Pretty much the same. It's good, color-fast stuff. It's not, in other words, weather won't hurt it. It'll look professional, clean, and neat throughout the 10 days that I have it up.
Clint is here, and I asked him before the meeting if he would get up and say a few words, and that's hard for Clint, just like it is me. But Clint, I do think it's important. Clint gives so much back to the community and specifically to our schools here that I would like you to kind of briefly speak about that.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity. This is the 14th year. We started the same year that you started the fireworks here in Villa Rica. It's a family-oriented event. We'll have anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 people that attend our event over a 2-night period. Family-oriented, we don't serve any alcohol at the event. One thing that I say from a tourism perspective is we not only bring people in from out of town. I had some calls today from Noonan, people that had found it on the internet. So we bring people from out of town, but it also keeps people here. I think there's a value in tourism that you actually keep residents that aren't going to Douglasville or going other places to eat or fill up their car and so forth. So that's a tourism perspective. From the very first year that we've had this, we've included the schools. We've done a plethora of things through the years, from $1,000 scholarships to 50-50 raffle tickets to the high school soccer team every single year has done the parking donations and retains 100% of that. So every single year, obviously the dollar amount fluctuates just because of the event, but it's several $1,000s that these different school organizations take in. I would like to note as well that we have taken every single sign up for within the city limits the day after the event. So when you come into your city to work on Monday morning, they're all gone. And if I may brag just for a moment, that's a pain. We have crews that work through the night, Sunday night, making sure that everyone within the city limits are taken up. So we try to take pride in what we do. Every sign that we put out, we get the property owner's permission, and we get the person's name. We've had a few calls in the years past that said, hey, you put up a sign that didn't have permission. I pull out the list, give the person's name, and they said, oh, okay, I didn't realize so-and-so had given you permission. So we try to do a professional job with putting them up and then getting them down in a timely manner as well.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Okay, since we don't have a written recommendation or agenda item here, what I would, Sam, you help me out with the wordage on this, but I would think it would be somewhere along the lines of allowing the Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo to place signage pursuant to the direction of staff for the upcoming 2019 Villa Rica Frontiers Rodeo.
I make a motion that we approve the Frontier Rodeo signage as presented by the staff.
Have a motion, a second. Any questions? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, tab D, Parks and Recreation. And Leisure Services.
Can't forget that part. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item that's before you, this is a request to apply and accept State Library MMR grant for the purpose of replacing 2 HVAC units at the library. We've had a chance to talk about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but there are 2 HVAC units at the library that do not have dehumidification control elements. And as a result of it, there's just a lot of moisture that's building in the library itself. What I had a chance to do, you'll see 2 attachments included with this item. Number 1 was just a cost estimate of what the units were to replace. Actually, you should see 3. You'll see a copy of also the grant application program, as well as copies of pictures of essentially what the staff at the library, what they're doing in terms of emptying out those buckets of water that are just kind of building at the library. So again, staff is recommending approval. The total amount that you see, I have a total of $40,982. That does include a contingency in there, just because the application grant made a note of it. But of course, you'll see just what the general cost estimate is. That's also attached as well, and what the difference is. So if you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them.
How much is the grant, the state library grant?
So the cost estimate, if you will, is $37,257. This requires a 50% local match on the part of the local government. So the state would be providing the other 50%, and then we'd be required to provide the local match.
That didn't seem clear. Is the cost of the 2 units $40,982? Or is that the 50%? Is the cost $80,000?
Well, again, it's a request, so it'd be the roughly $20,000. So
because the motion is roughly $41,000. It doesn't say up to. I would be comfortable with an up to number, but really what I want to know is if we're going to get this 50% match grant before this is done, or at least as part of the consideration tonight.
Well, the grant application closes in September, so we won't necessarily know, but we have to have it in and submitted. So certainly what I'll do is come back and provide, if I'm answering what you're asking.
I understand. So if I were to amend that to up to, would that be sufficient for you to then do your application and then come back to us when you have the information?
You could say up to the 40,000.
Okay.
Yes, I think that would be fine.
I mean, we did talk about this in our most recent budget meeting. I think everybody's pretty familiar with it. So
right.
I just wanted to be clear about the 50% match. I didn't know if we were talking about 81 or 2,000 or 40.
It is the 40,000. We'd be providing the 20,000. What I'm not clear on at this particular point is if it's fully reimbursable, as in we pay the full amount, if you will, and then they're
that's
reimbursing
why I'm
us
thinking
back
about
to
the up to.
Yeah, up to the
then
40.
If you have to, and then we get the
Yes.
rebated 50%. Okay.
Yes.
There are no more questions.
Any more questions for staff? I have comments, but I'm going to wait until, see if we have a motion second.
I'll make a motion to apply and accept the State Library MRR grant for the purpose of replacing 2 HVAC units with an estimated cost of up to $40,982.70 and a requirement to provide a 50% local match.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. As far as discussion is concerned, I had asked legal staff, Mr. Mecklin, to look at whether we had any recourse toward the engineer or the company that built the library. We dedicated that in 2016? 17. It's now 2019, and we have such a problem with humidity in there that we're having to put barrels to collect it. That is a shame, and that's no reflection on staff at all. But whoever built it, if they cost the taxpayers $20,000, I want us to pursue that.
I'm sure it's in excess
And
of
the council
that.
has made that very clear that they would like to. So, Sam, would you check on that and see what David has found out about that?
I understand, I will. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor? It is unanimous. Tab E, utilities.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have 2 items before you tonight. The first will be an emergency replacement for a filter effluent actuator valve. On August the 16th, one of our raw water pumps came out of the housing, putting approximately 6 foot of water down in my pipe gallery. That caused a couple of pieces of equipment to get damaged, water damaged, and part of that would be that filter effluent valve. It's necessary because it keeps, on our filters, we only have 2, so we kind of set them at a certain level as to what we want them to filtrate. The actuator keeps it within a 10 to 15 gallon radius of that. If the actuator's not there, we're having to go downstairs, manually open it, and what that does is you're putting extra load on that one filter, and your other filter is having to compensate for that one not working correctly. So our recommendation is to engage PRB Electronics to order, install, and make appropriate adjustments for a new actuator at the cost of $10,472. And like I said, we can't, as it stands right now, we can't operate that valve.
Were we already planning to replace?
The actuator, no. The
It says it's a budgeted item. Budgeted?
I had money in the budget for a couple of other things that have had to been pushed back because of this incident right here. So.
Okay.
I just appreciate the, if you read the report, you really got to love the job, and this is why we have a city manager, so we can sort through all these things. But at 11:40, raw water pump number 2 separated from its housing and flooded the pipe gallery with 6 feet of water. As a result, water damaged the number 2 filter effluent valve actuator. Yep, that's what happened.
That's what
Sounded
happened.
like an emergency to me.
I'll make a motion to engage PRB Electronics to order, install, and make appropriate adjustments for a new valve actuator in the amount of $10,472.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you. The second one is kind of the same issue. It's emergency replacement of 2 water filter effluent turbidimeters. 2 days before the July 16th incident, one of our turbidimeters quit working. I had to call in our representative from HydroCal LLC, he comes in and does our quarterly calibrations on all of our online and benchtop equipment. Called him in. He could not repair that piece of equipment. So he actually had a spare unit of a different brand on him. He was able to hook that up. We were back in compliance. Everything was great, and then 3 days later, the July 16th event happened, and the water damaged the one that was on loan. So he brought us another one, hooked it up, and so I am requesting that, recommending rather, that the purchase of 2 Swan turbidimeter units from HydroCal LLC in the amount of $8,810.
Any questions? Y'all don't want me to read this one?
This one looked fun. I'll make the motion to approve the emergency purchase of 2 Swan, that's why Danny didn't do this one.
That's right.
Turbidimeters
You catch on.
from Hydrocal LLC in the amount of $8,810.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
You're a wise one, Gil.
Unanimous.
There you go.
Thank you, ma'am.
I didn't know how to pronounce that either.
Tab F, City Manager.
Mayor and Council, we were approached by the administration of Douglas County in hopes that we would participate with them in the installation of 4 new streetlights on the loop between 78 and Liberty Road, with the county paying for the installation and maintenance of 1 pair, with the city taking care of the other 2. We've talked to them about this in person also since the request was made, and told them that we'd be bringing that to you for your consideration tonight. We recommend approval, and as you can see from the numbers, there's a pretty significant installation expense, almost 10 grand. With a monthly fee of over $100, but we think that would be justified by the improvement to safety there on the loop.
Okay, you say this comes out of the general fund. It can't come out of the Douglas County SPOS money. It has to be the general fund.
We could do the one time out of SPOS if we needed to.
You know, why would we not take it out of there instead of the general fund?
We have money budgeted for this anyway, so.
Okay. Yeah, I was in a meeting with them today, and they brought this up, and I think it's a good deal for us. It's a safety issue over there on that loop, and the fact that they're willing to, there'll be 4 of these, 2 of them they would install and maintain, and then we would pay to install 2 and maintain them. So I'll move that we authorize the city manager to have Georgia Power install 2 new street lights on the loop road from Highway 78 to Liberty Road.
My question is it going to come out of the general fund, or are we going to take out SPOS money?
Second.
Take what out of SPOS money?
The money, just the one time to
For
install those
installation?
things, yeah.
Yes. That's what you said, right?
You want to do it out of SPOS? Is that what I'm hearing?
We had some Douglas
Do we
County
need to make
SPOS
a
money.
motion that says that?
No, I mean, just tell me if
I
that's
mean,
what
you
you
just-
want to do.
That's right.
'Cause
Matt seconded.
we had some Douglas County SPOS monies we were looking for a use for, so I thought it was a good use.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, so if that dies, then you can make a substitute motion if you'd like. But I think the understanding, I think what the original intent of the motion was is for that us to look at taking it out of the Douglas County SPOS.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
If not, all in favor? It is unanimous. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is a recommendation by staff for our compensation for elected officials to be modified effective January 1 of 2020. We looked at doing this last summer, but I did not realize that the decision by council had to be made prior to qualification. I thought it had to be made prior to the vote in November, so we missed last year's opportunity. But again, we have presented to you a comparison of the cities around the state who have between 12 and 16,000 population at the last census. We're in that group of cities, and as you can see from the comparisons, we are woefully below all but one of the other cities in that group, and have been so for a significant amount of time. Where I worked last, we made a modification there. I'm thinking at least 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time since we made the correction there, and in my view, we should have done so here around the same time at least. But anyway, I'm recommending, and what we've published is a mayor's compensation of $1,200 a month, up from $250 plus 50 per meeting, and then a council member compensation of $750 per month, up from $200 plus 50 per special call meeting.
So we did publish it with the call meetings included? We published it with the call meetings?
No, what we published was a fixed amount up, so the most that you could raise it to is $1,200 for the mayor and $750 for the council.
But without the meeting.
Without any variability to it, it's a fixed amount per month. So you could approve something less than that, or those amounts, but not more than those amounts.
Questions for staff?
I think we have discussed this amongst staff and other folks for a long time. It's probably long, long overdue, maybe as much as 20 years. I don't know. Ms. Marchman was telling me she's been on the council for 24 years. It's been about the same since then. So some of us looked at the data that was provided and come up with an idea, and I'll make the motion and we'll see what happens. And if you want to do something different, then maybe somebody will do something different. But I'll make a motion that we set the council pay at $750 per month and the mayor pay at $950 per month, beginning January 1st, 2020.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? If not, all in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Have 3 with 1 abstaining. Councilman Montahan abstained. Okay. Tab G, executive session.
Make a motion, we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing or voting to enter into a contract to purchase, dispose of, or lease property subject to approval in a subsequent public vote as provided in Georgia Code Section 50-4-3B1D.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? We are in executive session. Thank you all for coming. Stick around.